everybody. Welcome to Katie in the Morning. I'm Katie Page, Director of Member Relations at the National Association of Healthcare Assistants. I just want to share something with you guys real quick before we get started. Anytime that you see my hair in a braid, that means I'm having a bad hair day, just so you know that ahead of time. So one of the things that is a big part of our job is how we address our residents. When you first come to meet them, if they're a new person to our facility or whether you're a new person to the facility, how you address someone when you first meet them can leave a very, very lasting impression. So there are appropriate ways to address a resident and kind of welcome them or greet them, and then there are inappropriate ways. So we're going to go over a few of those today, and I'm pretty sure you guys will get the feeling of what I'm talking about, but we're going to go right into the appropriate ways right now. Residents come from an era right now that are in the facilities as of right now, come from an era of respect. They worked their whole lives to gain that respect from their employers and their peers. And Mr. or Mrs. is a very appropriate title when you're addressing the residents. When you go to talk to them, once you get that personal relationship going, you're taking care of them on a day-to-day basis. You can always ask them what their preference is, if they prefer to be called Mr. or Mrs. Smith, or if they prefer to go by their first name. But always, always ask them. There's even residents out there who will prefer a nickname. For example, the facility that I last worked at, I always called him Mr. So-and-so, Mr. So-and-so. And he says, you know what? He says, my family and my friends call me Sonny, so just call me Sonny. That wasn't his first name. It wasn't his last name, but that was what he was known by his entire life. And since he took the facility as his home, he wanted to feel at home and therefore had everybody address him by his nickname. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk to you about the inappropriate ways to greet and welcome residents and why they are inappropriate. Welcome back to Katie in the Morning. Today we're talking about how to properly address residents. We've gone through the appropriate terms and the appropriate greetings and welcoming, but now we're going to talk about some of the inappropriate ones or the pet names. Honey, sweetie, and baby are the three most common ones that you will hear in long-term care. It's a very, very hard habit to break, and they're a lot easier to say, especially when you have multiple residents. But it is so, so disrespectful. That's one of my personal pet peeves, not just in the facility, but in general. If I'm out in public and somebody calls me honey, especially if they're younger than I am, that just tweaks my melon, man. I mean, you're 4 years younger than me. Don't call me honey. I'm older than you. I've had more experiences than you. Address me by my name or by Mrs. Page. I'm okay with Mrs. Page, especially in the Alzheimer's units. You see this a lot. CNAs will be giving cares and you'll go to walk out the room and, oh, I'll be right back, honey. Or like the women in this era didn't even allow their husbands to call them pet names. There was no baby. There was no bae. I don't even know where bae comes from. Princess is another one that you hear a lot. Oh, come on, princess, let's wash your hair. Or come on, princess, let's do your nails. That can be very, very demeaning. And you don't know what kind of a signal you're putting off with your body language and your presence when you're talking with like the slang terms. So it's really, really just something that you really need to try to avoid. You could even do something fun like a pet name jar, where if someone hears you call a resident a pet name, you put a quarter in it, and then at the end of the month, with the money raised, you throw a pizza party or something like that. Talk to your DON or your activities department. You could even do it as like a donation to resident activities. If they're short on like what's the word I'm looking for? Materials for grooming, bathing. If you are looking for new activities to put in place for the residents, the bowling, something cheap and easy you can get at Walmart or Target for like $7.99 to $10.99. This would be something that your pet peeve account could pay for inevitably. So when you're working with them, just make sure the bottom line is ask them what their preference is. If they prefer to be called by Mr. or Mrs., if they prefer to be called by their first name, if they have a nickname that they've gone by their entire lives, ask them if they would mind if you address them that way. But also look at the care plans. Your care plan is like your go-to manual for each and every resident, and it should include what their preferred even the pronunciation of their name, how they preferred to be addressed, how they preferred to be greeted, with if they have a nickname, if they prefer to go by that nickname, it should all be in the care plan. And CNAs have access to those care plans. If you don't, ask the social worker, because the social worker sits down with all the family members, and she sits down with all, or he, I shouldn't say she, sits down with all the residents when they first come and try to really get to know them to put that care plan together at the very beginning. So that's a very, very good resource for you, and I'm sure they would not mind. This is just showing them that you are taking the initiative to put the best care out there that you can. I'm going to let you guys go for now, and I will see you next time on Katie in the Morning.